The Gospel of Gold by G.S. Lewis. After a few seconds, Gold opened his eyes. Remarkably, the walls of his house had somehow withstood the blast, but he couldn't imagine what the inside looked like. His stomach lurched. He didn't want to. Beside him, Tom lay sprawled on the grass, hands similarly locked to the sides of his head, chest heaving. He had made it, and seemed little worse for wear. Gold felt his tension ease at the sight.
"Look! Everyone, over here! Hurry!"
People were coming. Gold sat up, seeing the gathering crowd in double vision. Something wet dribbled down his chin, and he wiped it with his sleeve. Blood. His nose was bleeding again. He sat on the grass and held it pinched as more and more people hurried to the scene, drawn by the din of the explosion. Marina and Jinichi broke through the front of the crowd and sprinted to Gold's sides, while the voice of Morty carried over the confused discourse.
"Not too close! Give him space! Gengar, check inside that house for any threat of further explosions!"
"Gold!" Marina pulled out a cloth from somewhere and set it under his nose. "Are you okay?" she asked quickly. Her face was filled with concern, on the border of hysteria. "Can you hear me?" "Yes," murmured Gold, hearing himself say it. "Good," she sighed, looking relieved. "It looks like... Ooh, you fell on your bag of goldberries. Well, they're squashed, but at least it cushioned your fall, huh?" "What happened here?" demanded Jinichi, his own expression drawn and pale. "Team Rocket," Gold answered, trying to shake off his dizziness and growing nausea. Jinichi glanced up, and Gold saw his eyes fall upon Tom. "Bastard!" the trainer growled, reaching for his Pokeball belt. "I'll have Bayleaf—" "No!" Gold cried suddenly, coming back to himself. "Don't do anything to hurt him! He's a hero!" If the surrounding crowd had been puzzled before, its people were now utterly bewildered. "He must have hit his head," called someone from the crowd. There was a murmur of assent, and for the moment, Gold acknowledged that it was a fair observation. Still, he persisted. "Team Rocket may be evil in general, but that man is not like them!" he exclaimed, climbing to his feet. "He saved my life just now! He almost forfeited his own to do it!" The crowd had quieted to complete silence, except for a few inquisitive whispers that were quickly hushed. Gold shook off Marina's further attempts to nurse his injuries, and hastily retold the past 5 minutes of events. In spite of the mild pain, he found he was getting good at telling stories so soon after trying circumstances. There was simply no better time for it. "What about you guys?" he asked Marina. "How was your homecoming?" "I never saw my house," she answered, once more dabbing at his face. "Hold still! The masses seemed to form as soon as you'd left. They asked questions faster than any of us could answer, and I can only say that they seem to know everything already." "Not everything," Gold said. The people at the front of the crowd were starting to call out again, and their opinions towards Tom were not favorable. "Call Officer Jenny!" suggested a girl dressed in a kimono gown. "He's still dangerous." "Better yet," said an elderly man with a cane, "take him out of town and tie him to a tree. Let Team Rocket come and get him." Once again, a noise of assent passed through the crowd. It seemed to them like poetic justice. "No, don't do that!" begged Gold. "They would kill him!" "So? Wasn't he lying in wait to kill you?" demanded another man. "By the way you told it, he was thinking about it at the very least." And he's already a trespasser, a robber, and a butcher, chimed in an old woman. Society could not continue to function if we let such scoundrels go unpunished.
Yes, I know Tom must be held accountable for some of the things he's done, Gold answered, his voice uplifted. But he should have mercy too. I'm alive because he repented.
And what of his past crimes that aren't your right to forgive?
Yelled somebody slightly further back in the crowd.
Did you ever think about that?
What about my past crimes? Cried Gold. What about yours? You think they're small now, but what if you were given all the time in the world? Do you think you wouldn't eventually commit something worse? That's where this human pattern always goes. Even in his emboldened state, Gold was careful not to treat his audience like a hive mind. The most outspoken people protested him, but a significant number of them listened with intense silence. He was, after all, a local legend in his own right, born of the Phoenix's flame. Here, in the very heart of the sacred city, it appeared almost as if the legend were continuing to unfold. You aren't yet a fully grown man, somebody jeered. And you're gonna stand there and lecture us on the nature of humanity? Whoa, lay off, another crowd member muttered, rebuking the fellow. The kid just had his house blown up. I haven't lived long, Gold admitted, pushing onward. But the Phoenix has. Do you revere her? I've spoken with her many times now, and she knows what a mess we really are. Only a crazy strong sense of forgiveness holds her to us. From the well of his memory, Spirit's words drifted to the forefront of his mind. Good works do not offset bad ones, no matter how numerous. You have to forgive. It is the only way you will be able to forgive yourself when you fall short. Our enemy knows us too, Gold continued, seeing Silver's malevolent face in his mind's eye. He knows, and he's made it his life's work to draw out our worst tendencies and quicken our end by them. Haven't you noticed? People are worse today than they've ever been. The crowd parted suddenly, many of its members making signs of deference, as out of it came a bald, elderly man in dark purple robes. Gold recognized him as one of the gatekeepers for the Bellchime Trail, the most sacred territory leading to Bell Tower. He was followed by two others, whom, after years of dedication to the legend's study, had together been named the Wise Trio. The three stood, shoulder to shoulder, facing Gold with stern but curious expressions. I am Sage Gaku, said the first. Do you know of us, young man? Gold nodded. The sage returned the nod. It would seem that this horrible event is merely an indicator of all the trials you have hitherto endured, he said, motioning to Gold's ruined house with an arm. Your suffering is undeniable, for it has brought you wisdom beyond your years, as suffering tends to do. He bowed his head. You speak of forgiveness, and I would ask yours. Doubly so, for we are obligated to test your words, even now, in the midst of your pain. It is not in the name of doubt, but for the sake of reconciling our beliefs. Marina and Jinichi appeared at Gold's sides, reflecting the stance of the Wise Trio as they stood in solidarity with him. Gold smiled inwardly, appreciating the gesture, but knowing it to be unnecessary. He broke the formation and headed to his porch, reclaiming his walking stick as a pretense for doing so. His companions looked at him uncertainly. It's okay, guys, Gold said, a sense of serenity overtaking him.
This isn't a showdown. We're all just trying to find the truth." The two of them relaxed visibly, and Gold returned his gaze to the wise trio. "What is it you want to know?" The second sage cleared his throat.
"You claim to speak for Ho-oh,"
he said, in a voice raspy with age.
"But the legends tell of a trainer with a pure heart who is able to touch the souls of Pokemon. He alone may call upon the rainbow Pokemon, and even then, only when his worthiness is thoroughly proven."
The old man crossed his arms.
"I cannot speak for the purity of your heart, for even we, the wise trio, have been found wanting. But Ho-oh's chosen one must be a trainer. That, at least, is plain."
He raised a bushy eyebrow.
"What Pokemon have you ever trained? If I presently sent out my Noctowl to battle, what would you summon against him?"
Gold waited for the old sage to say more, but he appeared to be finished. He could think of nothing in the moment, so he absently began digging at the dirt with the butt of his stick. Seconds passed, and the anticipation of the crowd took on an almost tangible weight.
"What is your answer?"
asked Sage Gaku evenly. Gold looked up at him and shrugged. "You're right," he said, with a hint of a smile. "That doesn't sound like me. My heart isn't pure, and I have no Pokemon to speak of." He looked down at the hole forming in the ground below his stick. "But during my journey, every now and then, a certain spirit overtakes me. Kinda like right now. The real me is nothing to boast about. I scare easily, and I'm just as easily angered. I don't think stuff through, and I'll admit..." Gold glanced bashfully at Jinichi and Marina. "I'm insensitive to other people's feelings." His gaze turned to Tom's form, still lying on the ground. The rocket grunt had remained motionless, probably to avoid drawing attention to himself, but he was awake and watching everything. My lowest moment was when I almost left him for dead. For a second, Gold felt an ache of shame in his heart. Then, almost imperceptibly, he heard a whisper, "But you didn't." Just those 3 encouraging words brought strength back to him. Gold stood taller and faced the wise trio and the crowd behind them. "Ho-oh told me her name," he said, feeling the power of life force rushing through him. "It is Spirit! The Spirit is what she embodies, and that same Spirit lives in me. Whenever he emerges, I am brave beyond my nature, and I have insights that are not my own. The proof is in these hands." Gold raised his free hand for all to see. "In the Spirit's authority, I heal, I restore, I bring life. And yes," he added, "the Spirit has touched the souls of Pokemon. He is trainer and life-giver of many, even the 3 legendary beasts. But he is my trainer too." He put his hand over his heart. "Gold is my name, for in time I will have a heart of gold." There was another silence, and this one lasted twice the length of the first. Gold simply smiled and leaned on his stick as he watched the crowd stare and murmur and ponder his words. Well, not his words, but his words.